What's up, y'all? It's Knowledge. Welcome to Brews and Reviews, and today I'm reviewing Marlon Craft's Work From Home, and I am sipping on a Paulaner Salvator. That's a 7.9% Double Bock from Munich, Germany, and this is a strong, good beer. Is this a strong, good album? We'll find out in this review. Marlon Craft first got notoriety by being a freestyle rapper and uploading freestyles to YouTube, and it doesn't always work out for freestyle rappers. I've heard a lot of people that can flow off the top and a lot of battle rappers in the past that just couldn't put out a good album. It just didn't translate for whatever reason. It always boggled my mind a bit how they could come up with such good lyrics and punchlines and do it in the freestyle type of environment, but it couldn't translate to making songs with good lyrics or songs with good concepts. But Craft has already broken that mold, as we can hear on his album last year, Funhouse Mirror, that doesn't sound like a freestyle project from a battle rapper, but more like a cohesive, well-produced project that provided good song concepts, like on the song Shallow in particular. Now, Work From Home, the title alone is very timely, and you know he wanted to put this out to be part of history, to talk about what's going on right now. But how much does it really document current history, and how long will it last? Will we be listening to this in years, thinking about what it was like when we were quarantined because of the coronavirus? The album is produced in its entirety, besides the bonus tracks, by frequent collaborator Arbus Beats, and he does adequate on some and steps off a little bit on others. One track where the producer is really spot on is Drowntimen. This is a live, hype beat, and it's a great way to start an album. Just get you feeling it, get you nodding your head, get you very interested in what Marlon Craft has to say, and it's a great way to demonstrate his stellar flow. And his flow actually on this song may be the best that he has on the entire album. There's no real chorus on the song, and the whole thing is very seamless. He has a really good line where he says, "The grass is greener, but you ain't never mowed my lawn." So he puts a little twist on this classic phrase, and it makes sense in what he's saying, that how much work does it actually take to get that green lawn? The lyrics get really serious on this about through the midway point, and it gives you a little glimpse of what Marlon Craft can do lyrically, where he's bringing up social issues such as corporations not paying their fair share of taxes, and meanwhile kids are homeless, and having lines like, "Hawk asked Trump 30 years ago how many rooms you need in them houses. Now Pac's dead and Trump's the prez, and for some reason we all stopped asking." And I love how the beat changes a little bit and adds an element right after that line to emphasize what Craft was saying. Loved. This is one song that he was probably hoping for crossover appeal. It has a very mainstream, easily accessible beat, but he really makes it work with his lyrics and keeps it still raw and underground and something that you can vibe to. I really like the concept too, where he's kicking jewels to his future son. Now, we've heard this concept done before, but I think he adds something to it. And he has a few lines on this that are different takes than what we've heard before on this style of song. Really good jewels in the form of couplet lines on this track. One of which is, "I bring you to a world designed to disenchant your brilliance, riddle you with guilt because they can't commodify innocence." They can't commodify innocence. And just when you think he couldn't top that, he brings in another great perspective where he says, "I think a lot of dads hope their sons will be like them. All I can think about the ways I hope you're different." Consequences is our first taste of something that might be wrong with the album. So whereas Loved had some crossover appeal and should be the crossover hit, I would love to see Marlon Craft break out with Loved. Consequences feels like it's an attempt at joining in the mainstream, but it's just executed wrong, and it feels like a bit of a reach. It seems like he's trying really hard. I feel like if they kept the bass line from the beat and just reworked some of the melodies, that this kind of beat could be a showcase for what Marlon Craft can do with his verbal gymnastics, but instead it's a little cheesy, and he's kicking lyrics about love and his flow is just off and he's trying to sing and it just doesn't really work. And I'm not opposed to love songs when they're done right, but instead of just a standard love song that doesn't really have any personality, it would have been much better to hear Craft go off using that heavy bass to dazzle us with what he can do verbally and adding a bunch of punchlines and good lyrics on top of this, which we just don't get on this track at all. Airplane Mode attempts to bring it back, and it does bring it back a little bit. I really like the concept of this song, and the chorus kind of pulls everything together and lets you know what he's really going for on the concept of this song, but the beat is a little off for this type of track, and it seems like it's just almost there, but it's missing one element that could push this over the edge and make it a really good song. Even though it does feel like it's missing something, his flow is nice and he uses different techniques throughout the song. This is especially evident towards the end of the song where he has a really nice line that just makes you appreciate the beauty of words. And this line works both lyrically and sonically as he employs a lot of assonance in his rhyme scheme, where he says, "I'm like if Cornell West, Griselda, Chappelle, and Adele all got together and designed a brain." I love the assonance in that line, and it's just something that really makes you appreciate words, but also what he's saying about the type of dude that he is, mentioning these great other people. Carne Guisada, if you're curious, that's a Latin beef stew, and apparently one of Marlon Craft's favorite dishes, to name a song after it, which is really only relevant from the first line of his track. I think he must have been an MF Doom fan or something like that with the way that he titles his songs in some occasions. And this is a very minimalist beat, although there are some really interesting things going on with it, like the saxophone riffs on the chorus. The verses, though, seem to embody the same kind of problems that we heard with Consequences, where it's kind of a love song with not a lot of substance, not a unique take on it, just something trying to get mainstream appeal, and it doesn't really work. But the beat and the chorus do make up for it a bit on this song, where I would say it's not as distracting as Consequences. It works kind of, but still not one of the standout tracks from the album. Larry David, this is another minimalist beat, but not quite as good as the last one. This one's a little repetitive, and I'm not necessarily opposed to this type of beat with the repetitive nature of it if the MC goes off in a display of verbal skill. We know he can do that, but we're not hearing it on this song specifically. He's not showing us the flow skills that he actually has on this one. I was also hoping that lyrically he'd stick to the title of the song. While he says at the beginning he's the rap Larry David, he doesn't really explain why. And I think it would have been very interesting to hear a song that's like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but he doesn't stick to that concept at all and seems to just have braggadocious lyrics throughout this whole thing, not really explaining how he's the rap Larry David. I love the beat on Hopeful, and he lets it play a lot at the beginning so it can kind of sink in, we can absorb it, and we know we're about to get a reflective track. His flow is a little bit different from what we've heard on previous songs. It's a little sing-songy, but it does work well with the beat. The highlight, though, is from the guest spot, Rick Emotional, and this is not somebody that I'm too familiar with. I know he was on Craft's previous project, but this one he really stands out. The flow is effortless, and it sounds like he's really trying to prove himself and trying to pick up some additional fans. And that's the end of the EP until we get to the bonus tracks, and the bonus tracks really stand out more than a lot of what's on the EP. The next track, Lonely, is the first bonus track, and this is not a bad inclusion to stretch out the album. It really fits a lot in the theme of work from home or being lonely under quarantine, being in isolation, and it's a good inclusion even though we heard this on his previous album as a secret track. Not just conceptually, but also sonically, it's a good change up from some of the hype beats that we've heard previously in the album. He goes in with a drumless track that really accentuates his lyrics, and he can show you his feelings of being lonely and isolated, more so without the hard drums or bass line that he's had on previous tracks. And then there's Mom's Whiskey, the next bonus track, which absolutely may be the highlight of the album. I've been listening to this as it's been out for a couple months and just really digging it, and it hasn't gotten old yet. I love his flow on this and how he stretches out the last word of each line, and it's almost his most unique flow that he's displayed on the entire EP. And there's also some very real, very personal lyrics. He demonstrates his insecurities with lines like, I made an album, I think it's amazing, I'm scared you won't like it though. What you know about that? Like when you write your truth, can't say it was a typo, yo. Then Kota the Friend comes in for a guest appearance, and I love Kota the Friend. Check out my review that I did of everything. And to me, Photo was the best album of 2019. We don't hear enough guest appearances from Kota, but he comes in here like he belongs on the beat. And even though the beat is very sad and somber and it's something different for him, this guy still comes in with the optimism talking about sunshine. And what else would we expect from the most positive rapper around? And this is a perfect mix with these two on the song. The theme of this album is really held together, interestingly, somewhat by the bonus tracks. There's some really good songs here that deserve space on your current playlist, like Drowntimen, Loved, Lonely, Mom's Whiskey, but it is inconsistent, and that's tough for an EP. I could see this released in 2-song formats, almost like back in the day when you bought a single and it had a B-side, because for every good song on this album, there's also one that just sounds like filler. But still, the songs that do stand out are good enough to where it makes you ignore the filler or bypass it just waiting for the next good track. So that being said, I'm going to give Marlon Craft's Work From Home a 7 out of 12 pack because it'll get you buzzing for now, and it doesn't really matter if you're buzzing in the future because all you need is something to get you through this quarantine. If you liked my review of Marlon Craft's EP, please hit like right now and hit subscribe that's popping up right next to me if you want to hear more hip-hop and hops related content. You can also click on my other videos right now if you want to keep the buzz going. And I enjoyed this review, I enjoyed this beer, and I'll see